Texas U is good. Texas U isn't going anywhere. Man, what option do you have? Like, everybody's chasing the same kids. I don't think people understand. You come out, it's hard to be relative every year in Texas. In the day, it's going to get ugly, and it gets ugly. Like, if I posted everything I thought on Twitter, man, I have 1 million followers, but I'm really big on setting expectations on the front end. Tell people where they really are, because at the end of the day, it hurts the kid. That's where, because I've seen the four corner stuff. If you're coaching yourself, that's a whole nother animal. And people expect you to do it for free. Do a round table and get everybody in the room and just throw questions and talk and interact. Man, it don't take long to shake the dust. You see who's who. If you want to go hard and this is going to be your livelihood, you have to treat it like a business. Parents are always going to be loyal to their kid, and that's only fair. The number one team in the country is FBC right now. Are there too many circuits? Yeah, man. If you have a certain thing in your head you want to hear, guess what? If you call enough people, you're eventually going to hear it. You need to be careful about where you're playing. But if you're really good at what you do, you can paint a picture that really isn't the truth.
Did you know that I have 2 books? One called The Little Girl with Big Dreams. It's about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to a dream. The other is called Changing Lanes. It teaches you about the things that you learn from sport and how it translates to life after sport. Be sure to check these out at itsjustdifferentpod.com. Let's get to the episode. Welcome to It's Just Different Podcast, where we bring on people who have been where you're trying to go and or have helped countless athletes get there. Y'all know it's AAU time, so we gotta bring on the directors. We got an AAU director from Dallas, Texas, part of or the owner of Texas U. I'm gonna bring him in because y'all don't really need to hear what I got to say. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Ash? How's it going, man?
It is going. How are you?
Oh, hey, I can't complain. It's that time of the year, so it's a little crazy right now, but it's all good.
What's the setup you got? I just see shoes. I like this little setup behind you. Are you in the office? Where are you?
Yeah, this is my little man cave. When I got to get away, coming here, got my TV here, got a desk, a little futon. Obviously I'm in the shoes crazy, so I got a shoe wall in here. Yeah, this is where I get away.
I like that. I'm gonna have to take that idea. I like a shoe wall. I didn't really introduce you. I just said he an AAU director. Tell the people about you. Who is Rich?
Oh man. Look, country guy, grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana. Been doing this deal. I think this is gonna be my 26th year without dating myself.
Wow.
But I started super early, so I say that and people think I'm like super old. I'm not. I just had an injury, to kind of stop me from playing super early. So got into this side of it, had a little affinity for coaching, and one thing grew to the next. I never envisioned I would be coaching ever, or working in this space, but one thing led to the other, and 20 some odd years later, here we are. So
wow, how many kids have you put in school? 26 years. That's a long time.
Oh God, it's funny. I had somebody, and this is just happened within the last couple of weeks. Like, Rich, send me a list how many kids you put in school, and I'm like, dang, okay, from what period? And they were like, last 4 years or so, and I put the list together, and I looked at it and I was like, dang, okay, last 4 years, 50, close to 60. It was a nice number, and I'm like, dang, I don't even keep count. I mean, I tell people at this point, I love being in the act of service in this space. And when you do that, you really don't keep track, man. I think a lot of that happens. It's a lot of people in my spot. They know the number right on the T, hey, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I understand in this deal, you can help kids get to school, but to varying degrees, I don't try to take too much credit for the process. It takes a lot of people. So,
right.
Anybody that I help get, I'm just happy to be part of the process. But it's been a few, boys and girls.
That's dope. Now, we start this podcast off with something that's different. Name of the podcast is called It's Just Different Podcast. I think that things are different, whether good or bad. So I like to ask, like, what do you think is different? So what do you think is the biggest difference in AAU now versus back then? And back then is whenever, whether that's 2 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Oh man, I'll say this, and it's probably whatever. It's probably, something that's struck a chord with a lot of people, but it's saturated as hell right now. Um, there's always been a lot of clubs, but I think at this point, man, it's like too many. It's like Jesus. Every other corner, it's a club, and I saw something on Twitter the other day. Someone was saying everybody plays on circuit now. It's like fact, like it's like everybody's on circuit. So I think, versus when I first came in to now, I think, initially when I first came in, hey, it was, you knew who the powerhouses were in terms of programs. They got the majority of the kids, and I think the doors open to create a little more parity. But there has to be some kind of fine balance, because when you get to a point where it's all saturated, for parents and kids, and that's what matters, it's kind of hard to know what direction to go and kind of what's what, fiction from fact. It's a blur, man. There's so many people out there that don't know, left from right. It's crazy. And that stuff hurts the face at the end of the day. So I say it's probably the biggest difference I can see right now. Just, number of programs for sure.
Do you think that? Mm, well, one, because we was actually talking about this conversation on live. Like, I personally feel like yes, there's way too many teams, but I even think that there's way too many circuit teams. Like what we were talking about in Texas, right? Like you got Texas U, IFN, SA Finest, Lady Jets, Pro Skills, Drive Nation, Sci-Fair, Lone Star. Who am I missing?
Keep going.
Like
Team Leg.
I know I'm
Team
Team
Leg.
Legs, yeah.
Mo got a new
Team
program.
Mo, yeah. Like, and I know I'm missing a few, but and I'm not even talking Select 40, Elite 40. I ain't talking none of that. I'm just talking Under Armour, Adidas, and Nike. UIBL. That's 10.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know I'm missing some Adidas. Oh, Family.
Family. Yep.
Sci-Fair. I don't know if I said Sci-Fair.
Software. Yep.
Like, that's 12 circuit teams. Like, how do you feel? Do you think it's too many circuit level teams?
Absolutely. And I think, not to strip anyone from an opportunity, because,
Hmm.
I'm all about the health of the space. But I mean, you can even see it when we go to our individual, circuit events and stuff like that. Like, it's hard for any program out of Texas to come and just hit like that, right?
Yes.
Because everything is kind of stretched out, which, kind of breeds, I was talking to, I've talked several times to Jake Key about, negative recruiting. You get into that stuff, people negative recruit stuff, but it's like, man, what option do you have? Like, everybody's chasing the same kids, and you have to kind of pick your poison and pick how you're going to, operate and handle your business. Props to everybody that does it their way. But yeah, it waters stuff down. And again, it's confusion with parents, man. What's what, and what way to go, because everybody's pitching something different. So yeah, it probably needs to condense a little bit. To be honest, is that gonna happen? I doubt it.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's, kudos. I give props, like all these guys out here, Earl Rooks, Earl Allen, um, my guy Ed over at Drive, Joey Simmons, guys that have been doing it for a little bit. I don't think people understand. You come out, it's hard to be relative every year in Texas. I tell people, that I talk to nationally, I'm like, look, if you can get it in Texas, you can get it anywhere. You take
Hmm.
any of the big dogs here in Texas, you drop us in another state, we're gonna kill it. You
Hmm.
know. So from a certain standpoint, it's good because, iron sharpens iron, but when everybody's chasing the same kids, man, it's just, in the day, it's gonna get ugly, and it gets ugly, man. It gets kind of bad. So
Yeah. So how have you been able to navigate that to continue to get talent and enough talent to be able to compete UA?
yeah, I think, you know for me, kind of my recipe has always been, when people get in the lab with me, they get in the gym with me, they see the difference. I tell people all the time, like, if it was my 22-year-old self coaching and I was trying to recruit versus myself now, 20 some years later, like, it's night and day. Like, I come in the gym, I know what I'm doing. I think being passionate about the space, being passionate about your craft is vital. And, I'll be honest, and again, this stuff isn't popular, but, man, if you just got everybody who quote unquote runs a program and you put them together in a forum and just did a round table, man, you could figure out who's who really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Really quick. It wouldn't take long. There'll be some people literally in there that know a smidget more than parents. And that's not a shot. But, I think, the runner program, what you do, get a nice little logo, helps if you got a little money, can offer a little something. And if you got a kid or so that can pull some other kids in, hey, boom, you got a program.
Right.
That doesn't mean you know how to coach. It doesn't mean you know how to develop. It doesn't mean you know how the recruiting process goes. And, those things are crucial because, let people tell it. Everybody in this state has collegiate relationships. I got relationships. What does that mean? Um, but people I talk to, I think where I'm successful is I'm not biased. I'm okay with people asking questions, shopping. I actually encourage it because the more questions people ask, I'm gonna say for someone like me, the better I do in the recruiting process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Nike, it's Under Armour, it's Adidas. Everybody know what the sexy brand is, right? So you're always going up against that. I like to wear Air Max, so I'm a lean Nike. Not say Nike isn't a good circuit; it's a great circuit. But some people literally look at that stuff before they look at everything else. So it's about fit. Relative to these girls that are in high school, process. Like, what do you do? I tell them, ask me, what do I do to help you get recruited? Don't just ask me, but whoever's recruiting you too, ask them. Is it a process, or if you get the static answer, hey, I got relationships, or hey, I got this kid in school, those are question marks, man. Because
Right.
I tell people all the time, the easiest kids to get scholarships are those talented ones.
Right.
It's
Exactly. The
they
ones
can
that's
get it.
gonna already get it.
They're gonna
They're
get it
going to
wherever
get
wherever
it.
they go. They're gonna get it wherever they go. Where the sizzle is where those mid-level girls, mid-major,
Mm-hmm.
upper mid, then you start trickling down a little bit. And there's some people in this market that are really, really good when it comes to that. But again, everything, on the club scene is sexy, it's flash, it's tweets, it's mixtapes, it's all that stuff. So I think that kind of hides and kind of hurts the process a little bit.
Yeah. What got you into this space?
Uh, Honestly, man, I've been in real estate forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think anyone in my spot has to have a gift of gab. So all the people, people I was talking about before, all directors, man, everybody got the gift of gab. So, um, I think getting in this deal, I was able to use that because I like talking to people, as a whole. But I had two girls, two boys. They wanted to play. They started. We started. Man, it was upwards. I think out of a church, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to play, and as they got better, what we were looking for increased. So I kind of jumped in there, started coaching. I was like, hey, I kind of like this. And anybody that does it, you've coached Ash,
Mm-hmm.
it pulls you in, man. You get hooked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So for the diehards to do this deal, you get in, you get hooked. It's addictive, and just you roll with it. So that's kind of what happened with me. It started with my kids, and I think most people that do this, it starts with their kids. Um, my kids cycled out, and several years later, I'm still doing it. So
Right.
everybody can't do that, but I just got in here and really just gravitated toward the space. So,
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, I mean, what you just said, like they get in it with their kids. Like
hmm
people ask me all the time, like, why you doing this? You ain't got no kids, you ain't got this, you ain't got that. Like, why are you doing this? And like you said, you get hooked. Like probably for the last 3 years, I would say, I'm done with this. I ain't doing this.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
every
yeah,
year, and I would do
yeah.
it.
I
And
went, I went through that. I went through that.
every year, I'm
Yeah,
like, yep, I'm done with this. I ain't got time. Nope, I'm done with this. But then I'll come back. And even like this year, I was actually, a lot of people don't know, but I was actually going to do away with my whole entire program. Um, Really just for the fact of like, I feel like my calling is just so much bigger. And I feel like the more I
yeah,
kept coming back to the teams, like God was blocked. Like, I don't even want to say blocking, but he was stopping the things that I really, really needed to do.
yeah,
So it was hard. Like even this year, it was hard for me to, and it took me forever. Like I think it, like once the season started up until I think January is when I finally was like, all right, I got to make this decision because people got to
yeah,
find somewhere to play.
Yeah.
But like that was hard for me to get rid of the high school. Like I still have the program just a different way now. And it's just the younger kids. But I was just like, this is too messy for me. This too much drama.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
These
And
folks ain't finna drive me crazy.
look, Ash, and where does it come? Like I cringe, man. I don't post. Like if I posted everything I thought on Twitter, man, I have a million followers, man. But I just bite my lip. But you get this stuff. They think all of us make $1 million and all this stuff. And
Yes.
I think thing that burns me the hardest, and it's basketball. It's this space, right? You take this space, and I know like fellow directors bust their tails, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, our counterparts in other sports like volleyball, they don't deal with that,
At
and
all.
they make 3 times or 4 times what we're making, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this space, it's so much entitlement. It's so much scrutiny. I tell people they scrutinize what club they're gonna play for more than the contract when they buy a house.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think it hurts. And then we get back into negative recruiting, and then all the other stuff that comes in here. Because I'm a big advocate of, I keep saying that, big advocate of the space. But when it gets to the point where it's too many people in here and we got to do so many different things to get kids. So now, hey, come here. I'm paying for this and I'm paying for this. And
Right.
you know what? Everybody gets devalued. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can't charge a kid $50 without feeling like, man, should I charge that? And
Yes.
tell we bust our butts, man. I challenge somebody to sit, even have 5 teams, and I've had upwards of like 40 teams at certain times. Man, it's full time. You can't do anything else. You know, if you really know what you're doing, you're talking to parents, you're talking to coaches, you're figuring out strategies of what you're doing. If you're coaching yourself, that's a whole nother animal. And people expect you to do it for free.
For
Like,
free. I can't
like,
tell you how many times if you charge and it's like, oh, that's too much. Oh, so and
yeah,
so not charging this. Or, like this stuff costs.
that money's coming from somewhere. It's not, it's just not a free rip out there. And people get creative with stuff they do. And that's cool. Everybody has their own way of doing it. But I think I just hate that overall, stuff gets devalued, because
Mhm.
the people that I put at the highest in terms of what I think they can do with their programs, they're not the sexiest ones out here. They're not the
Right.
first one people are going to take their kids to. And I'm like, yo, if you go play for them, you're going to learn how to play the game. They're going to be there with you through the recruiting process. You're going to be educated. And guess what? When you go to college, they're still going to be there as an arm for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the, hey, come in here, we're going to showcase you, get you out, and then it's kind of that's it. But there's some people that really do a good job, and
Listen,
I,
we were doing once a month parent educational meetings. I'm bringing on like people, former college coaches, just to give information. We doing like everything outside of basketball, and I had to take a step back and honestly be like, they don't even care about this stuff.
they don't, not until it hits them in the face. And then it's like,
They
when
don't
they get
even.
to college and all that stuff hits, it's,
It's
you know,
crazy. Like I'm
yeah.
spending like because I'm mimicking a lot of stuff that I got from Texas. Like I'm giving everybody in our program folders with all the plays, with this, with and it's just like, did I just waste my time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, man. If again, round table, it'll never happen. It'll
Mm-hmm.
never happen. So do a round table and get everybody in the room and just throw questions and talk and interact. Man, it don't take long to shake the dust. So you see who's who, and it's some clear space between some people. So,
Right. For
but
sure.
you know,
Is this all you do?
you know what? Up until last year, um, I was still doing real estate.
Okay.
And I'm probably eking back into that. But I just wanted I said I was going to give myself an opportunity to, go full blast on this thing because it's always me juggling and I'm having to work. And, I had a good stretch where I was like, hey, financially, I'm cool. Like I can chill a year or two. I got
Mm-hmm.
enough sit aside. Let me go full blast with this basketball thing. So last year was the first exercise in that.
Mm-hmm.
Felt good, to tell the truth. So this is year 2. And, so far so good. But again, I tell people, from that, and I'll say for me, it's not a financial deal. Like
Mm-hmm.
I make pretty good in real estate. It's not like, I'm leaving so I can go over there and make double that. No, not even. I'm not going to make what I make over on that side. But my passion clearly is on this side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you get in, you're creative. Certain stuff, can happen where you can make up for that. And I trust God, so I pray about it, and I'm like, this is where my heart is. At the end of the day, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Make a way where I'm cool doing it. So He works it out. So we're doing good. But yeah, right now it's all basketball.
So, what advice would you give a young coach, or even, or not even a young coach, a coach in general that wants to do this full time?
Yeah, I would say number one, understand what you're doing. I did it, you know, again, at a 25 years, I want to say I didn't monetize what I was doing for 18 of those. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that sounds crazy, but it just wasn't a thing for me. So at the end of the year, I always read, I didn't really care. It was like, hey, this was kind of a hobby or something like that. I would say for someone that's coming into this, decide how hard you want to go at it. If you want to go hard and this is going to be your livelihood, you have to treat it like a business. You
Mm-hmm.
know, sit down, figure out what your strategy is, and then execute that thing, and then observe the market. Kind of talk to people. And I got a couple of directors I talk to. I'm really good about that because I think some people mentored me when I was coming in, so I try to do that for others. But get around some people that know what they're doing, talk, learn, and don't try to hit a home run right off the bat. It's not about that. Refine what you do, be sharp in what you do, um, and you'll be okay. But it's a tough deal to get in. I think it's easy to start. It's tough to be really good. And I kind of the metric I put out there, even when I'm talking about myself, as long as I've been doing it every year, we're always relevant. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, have we been one of the best or the best program in Texas? Yeah, it's a couple of years I can say that, right? But worst case, we're always relevant, and that takes a lot of work because again, it's a lot. Texas is it's a battleground, man. It's crazy. So again, for all the directors that are out here in Texas, kudos because I know how tough it is out here. Um, but people coming in just don't think it's easy because
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. How have you been able to, like, I feel like one of the toughest things, and I'm gonna just really talk like circuit talk. So, and when I'm saying circuit talk, for the people listening, that's Under Armour, that's Adidas, that's Nike. I guess you could say Select 40. I'm gonna just go with those three, main three: Under Armour,
Okay.
Adidas, Nike. I feel like when you there, every year it's almost like rebuilding for a lot of programs because kids are gonna move, kids gonna do different things. Like, how have you been able to, how do you handle that, like, just in general, like kids leaving, having to figure out, okay, what does my roster look like, being able to recruit kids, like, how do you handle having to, or do you have to rebuild every year? I guess maybe was
You
the
know,
better question.
it depends. I think in the ideal situation, you would, and again, I think that's some of what's missing to a degree in Texas. You would love to get kids and have them for the whole stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the most success I've had was with a group that I had from like third grade. I had those kids third, fourth grade. I think some of them even second grade, and then you get to a certain point, you're in high school. They know everything, right? It's not a talent play. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest, like even the first year in UA, because we hit hard. It was like 8-2, for our record. We're one of those teams on that deal, and it kind of caught everyone off guard, even in Texas. But I think what people failed to realize, majority of that team were kids that I had for a minute. I
Mm,
had those kids for a minute. So if we're out and we're running the set, say we run the DHO weak side, they decide to jump it. I got kids that have been with me long enough to know if they're jumping it, hey, I'm a back cut.
yeah.
Honestly, we got kids that are talented as hell. They get in that situation, brain
Mm-hmm.
shot. I'm gonna pick up the ball. I'm gonna try to rush. Those little nuances are the difference between being good and being great.
Right.
And again, when these kids go to college, everyone's so front loaded on the talent aspect. Are we looking at the IQ piece? And I'll be the first set I've had, I ain't calling out no kids. I've had kids come in that are ranked amongst the top in the state, ESPN type kid, and IQ just man needs room for improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody talks about that stuff, and then they get to college and it's a little bit tough, and then everybody's looking like what's going on. So, um, I'm just a big advocate on the IQ stuff, man. So, um, I think that's where we've been pretty good. We get people in, there's going to be turnover. Just like everybody, I'll be honest, when I first started, you lose a kid, man, that stuff hurts. I don't think parents
I ain't gonna
understand
even
that
lie
stuff.
to you. When I first, like, I'm mad. Don't talk to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. It's like, man, I picked that kid up for the last couple months and this, and you do this. And then something comes along and then I'll give a story because I'm sure they don't care about it at this point
Yeah.
because it's been years removed. But you get a kid, she's always my case study for this, but like Jade Williams, right?
Mhm.
Jade was McDonald's kid, Jordan Brand, did everything, went to Duke, ran her rip at Duke. She's playing overseas right now. A lot of people don't know, man, she was in the lab with me young. Like I had that was my baby, right? And she was like a sixth grader. I'm playing that kid high school. We taking our bumps, and I felt like I put a lot in with that kid, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, like it got to a point, I can't remember who it was. It was either DFW or the Jets or somebody came and got her like in that eighth grade year, like, hey, we can blah, 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 blah. And the parents made the move. And I remember they told me, man, look, if me and that dad didn't go back and forth, my guy Marvin, man, I was like, dude, like we went back and forth for a minute. And, me, him, and his wife Kelly, we can laugh about that now because I handle that stuff totally different at
Mhm.
this point. I think situations like that for people, if they're really in it for the kids, you gotta understand parents are always going to be loyal to their kid, and that's only fair. And if you want kids to be with you, you need to make sure your offering is apples and apples or the best it can be for that kid. And if it's not, you need to graciously let them go.
Mhm.
So, I can say that now. If it was me now, graciously be like, hey, wish y'all luck. Back then, man, that hurt. I was like, I ain't trying to talk to y'all. I don't think I talked to them for a minute, but we're cool as heck now. Like,
Yeah.
play poker together, all that stuff, talk on the phone. But back then, man, that hurt. So, um, with that said, you just gotta go with the bumps sometimes. You're
Yeah.
gonna have kids that are there. And I think what helps me at this point, not to say if you lose a kid, you don't get like pricked a little bit, but I think now I'm just like, hey, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
And, if I'm doing the most and trying to educate as most as I can, and I'm like, hey, this is our offering versus this, and they still make a move, hey, it is what it is. The
Yeah.
ship keeps going. So, but it takes a while to get to that point, you
Yeah.
know?
So, and you're gonna have to let me know if I'm overstepping a little bit.
No.
But recently you've had just a what's the word? I guess just a change. I feel last year you had some of the top 26s
Oh,
um
yeah. Oh, yeah.
with Texas U, and then they have moved on. How has that been, like, because I'm sure you see it, I see it, you see Twitter, you see social media, these different things, and like I done seen where it's like, oh, Texas you done, or oh, this and that, and but every time I log onto Twitter, I see a new kid, I see this and that. Like, how has that been for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you deal with, I would say again, I've been in similar situation.
Hmm.
Opportunities come, people make moves. Um, you know, I did it. I was at Sci-Fair. I made the move to drive, to start drive. Stayed drive for a minute, left there, started Texas U. But even prior to that, heck, I was at Pro Skills. People don't know that. I was with Jeff.
Hmm.
Like, they even had
I did not know
girls. Like,
that.
yeah, nobody knows. So I had that one year, and it was about Jeff's daughter and my daughter, right? And
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, Jeff is a good dude. Like, me and Jeff saw him a couple of weeks ago, and we'll laugh about this stuff now. But then I think it was too early, maybe for both of us, right? Because coming in this thing, you have a little bit of ego, and you're trying to push, and you want to do what you do, and like I want to see how far I can do,
Hmm.
with the deal. So, made that move there. But I mean, to answer your question, I mean, the deal happened, this past summer. It's cool. It happens. A couple of kids, I think the narrative, which I hate, and, again, me and my maturity now, I just let stuff play out because I heard that stuff like, hey, everybody left Texas U. Well, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Texas U is done. Man, I've been around 20 some years. Like, you just got to roll with it. It's some stuff you just don't have to combat. I think The proof's in the pudding. Like I said, as long as I've been doing it, we're always relative. Um, and I think for this year, I'm excited about how we punch because
Mm.
there are some narratives out there. It's like, oh, they're gonna be this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, April's coming, and we're gonna do what we do. So that's the fun part about it. You can handle it a little better now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you're seasoned in this deal, but you're just taking a run with it. I mean, kid like JC,
Mm-hmm.
um, in my opinion, probably the top kid in the country in that class.
For sure.
Argument, worst case, top three, right? Would you like to keep that kid? Absolutely. But you know what? At the end of the day, me, dad, still cool. Cool with the mom. We had a relationship prior to it, and they had a circle that they were honoring and they want to stick with, and they did it. And hey, it is what it is. They're going to be good going forward. That baby has 2 more years at this level. She's going to have an incredible future going forward. God willing, I'm still going to be doing what I'm doing here. So, you know, it's past for everybody. Reason, season, lifetime. Some people are there, just for a stint for a reason. Some people are there for the stretch. So, you just figure it out and keep it moving. But it'll be fun. The little narratives that get put out there. That's the fun stuff, the petty stuff, because you
Yeah.
love to hear it. It gets you motivated after 20 some years for people to think like a little something happens and everything just the doors complunk, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
What would,
Um,
what would you say was the biggest takeaway from that situation?
uh, I wouldn't even say it was. I would just say, man, this market is so fluid, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a
we
great
just
point.
talk about stuff changing. And it's like you think you're at a comfortable level, and then boom, some changes. So you have to be able to pivot, um, and kind of stay on stuff. Gosh, and I want to say something, but it'll come like I'm taking a shot at the program. But I've seen some programs that have been really good in the past that couldn't pivot with changes. And when you can't, you're going to be out here because if you run your program the same now in 2024 that you ran it in 1998, you're not going to last. And that's just
And we done seen that happen.
yeah, that's just how it is. So I think just continually reinventing what you're doing, staying abreast of stuff. Obviously, having a passion for the market kind of keeps you there. So so that's where we're at. So Texas U is good. Texas U isn't going anywhere. We're going to be good this year. We got great kids in the program, continue to send kids to college. And it'll be fun when that plays itself out this year, so we're just rolling.
Did you know that I have 2 books? One called The Little Girl with Big Dreams. It's about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to a dream. The other is called Changing Lanes. It teaches you about the things that you learn from sport and how it translates to life after sport. Be sure to check these out at itsjustdifferentpod.com. Let's get to the episode. Yeah, I love it. I want to go back though because I guess I didn't even. That's on me. I should have done some more research. I didn't realize that you've been with Pro Skills, been with Drive, and with Sci-Fair. So take us through that a little bit. You say you started with Pro Skills, and then why did you leave, and where did you go
Yeah. Well, I was independent for a while, right?
after Pro
Um,
Skills?
no, before.
Okay.
Before. So, met with Jeff. Um, and at that time, I had a really good 2020 group. And they were young, man, but had a group of talent, we were like, hey, this makes sense in my mind, just because what I went through with other kids. I was like, at some point, I got to mix with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can continue this thing past 8th grade when they get in high school. So met with Jeff. It was cool. I was able to take my boys and girls. Went over there and mixed with him for a year. This was pre EYBL.
Okay.
So EYBL wasn't even in the picture. And we kind of knew it was coming, to be honest. We had those convos, but got over there and it was good. I tell people it was, if I go back, I tell people all the time, like, if there was one thing I could change about partnerships and kind of steps, I was hung in there with Jeff. You know what I mean? I think it was just early. It was early, probably for him and probably for me, right? I still kind of want the control stuff. Jeff
Yeah.
is, very, very protective of his brand, so he wants to control stuff too. And it's just two alphas, right? Can we figure this thing out? And we didn't, and it wasn't anything you know crazy or really toxic or whatever. I decided just to go back independent, right? I think for me, just because I still wanted to flex my muscle and be the guy,
Yeah.
right? So left back, was independent, hooked up with a couple of guys out of Frisco um, that had some connections with Nike, some relationships, and decide, hey, I'm gonna put my boys over there because at the time, I think it was a 2020 class. I had girls and boys, and probably, arguably, had top two team in Texas on the girls and top two team in Texas on the boys, and I was coaching both of them. Which hard as hell. So just trying to figure out where to go. So hooked up with them. They had relationships. We kind of put that thing together under D1. We ended up getting a boys deal with Nike. On the girls' side, did a partnership with Texas United, which
Okay.
people probably forgot they were even around. It was like Justin Higginbotham and those guys. So, on both sides, girls and boys, we both had that Nike aesthetic, right? Because at that point, I felt I needed it. I had two really good groups. I'm like, this can't happen to me again in eighth grade where this thing just papoosh, right? Um, so United ended up losing their deal. I won't go into details, but they ended up losing their deal. Um, D1, that kind of, now that was toxic. So ended up going a different way on that. So with the boys, kind of kept them independent and hooked up with Earl Allen over at Sci-Fair. So I think at that point, when I went to Sci-Fair, I may have had like 21 teams, 21, 22, something like that. Took all them deals into Sci-Fair. And, everybody that was with me following, we were loaded from the grassroots, like eighth and down, man. We had it. So took that group over there. Everything with Earl's cool. But opportunity came, and I had been there for a while. I had been there a couple of years. But opportunity came. Drive Nation was starting. So again, here's the itch. It's like, hey, Rich, you can come over here, start Drive. I'm like, dang, nothing was wrong where I was, but it was just like, hey, man, it's a great opportunity. So kind of went through that process, and ultimately at the end of the day, ended up going to Drive, start Drive. As stuff would happen, that year, it wasn't what I envisioned. So that, and a lot of people don't know this except for my closest circle, that's the closest I got to getting out of the space. I was just like,
Really?
yeah. I was like, man, I'm tired. I was like, that, no, well, I'm not gonna get into all the minutia, but that was a bad year. And I was like, you know what? Enough's enough. Like, I've given so much to this thing. Like I think I'm gonna hop out. And when I pivoted out, a guy that I knew on the West Coast was like, yo, Rich, you left Drive? I'm like, yeah. He was like, man, let me get you on the phone with somebody. Might have something. I was like, okay. So took the call kind of blind, and he put me on with the guy that was running UA. And he was like, hey, we're about to start UA circuit. We don't have a representative in Texas. We know Texas is tough. We know your background. Would you be interested in starting a club in Texas? And I'm like, ooh, okay, this UA, and UA had already been going on the boys for a while. I'm like, okay, this is girls. Like, this might hit. You know what I mean? So, and I've always been confident in what I do. So, I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump in this thing, and jumped in. It was my first time having my own deal, so I was able to kind of satiate, that desire, and we kind of hit it, and went running. It was just, it's funny because it was UA circuit, it was new, people didn't know about it. Texas U knew, Rich Anderson. I think my name floats around, but people really don't know who I am. Like, who is he? Is he new? I'm like, man, I've been around. I just haven't been the guy.
Right.
So we came out first year, man, we hit, and it was like, whoa, and ever since we just kind of been, doing our deal. UA program in Texas, has its
Yeah.
challenges because
So wait, let me
Texas is a,
stop you real quick. What were
yeah.
you when you left Drive Nation? What were you planning to do? Like before you
I
got
was
that
about to
call?
quit. I was about to quit. Either
Oh,
I was
you
going to
was
go
gonna
back
be
to sci
done.
I was going to be done. You know, I was
Mhm.
either going to go back to sci-fair or I was going to be done. And I think the group that I had, and I mentioned like the girls that I had for years and years, it was that 2020 class. So this was their last year. Um, you know, and I was like, okay, can I make this thing happen if I stay here? If I do, these girls I've been rocking with all these years, like I can put them on the stage. So, you know, after thinking about it and kind of talking to a couple people, you know, hey, if I do this, would you guys come and jump over here with me? You know, it's a new circuit, but what do you think? Yeah, I got buy-in from a few. Um, you know, they jumped on, and like I said, that first year, I think for nothing else other than the fact, you know, I go back to that continuity, consistency, IQ. Well, out there, I mean, and we obviously mixed some girls in, but these were girls that I felt could compliment, you know, what we were doing as a whole. We hit, like we were good, and then it didn't hurt that I got a girl out of Louisiana again that no one knew about, you
Mhm.
know, unranked. Like she had one offer when I picked her up. She was out of
Wow.
Louisiana, offer from Tulane, Jacalia Jordan, which I think everybody knows now. But she
Mhm.
came play with us that year after that first season playing with us, and that was her last year, junior year, right? She had about 50 offers
Wow.
and was ESPN top 50. That all happened in that summer. Nobody knew about her. So when I say came out, kind of killed that deal, and bless that baby's heart, you know, had all these offers. She ended up still going to Tulane because they obviously had a relationship with her, and it was just too much. Like every college in the country was calling about
That's
Jerk, and
crazy.
yeah, and she ended up going to Tulane. She stayed there a year, um, you know, kind of killed it, and then you know she ended up going to Mississippi State,
Mhm.
where she still is, and you know she's their leading scorer right now, doing her dirt. But you know, just an example of some of these kids that are kind of out here that don't have a platform. Um, that can take advantage of it and run with it. And she's probably the best case story I've seen. You
Yeah.
know, one offer, not ranked, finished the season 50 offers, ESPN top 50. You know, like that don't happen. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, to answer your question, I was almost out of this thing. It was too much. And
Wow.
you know, that group of parents that trusted in me that year, because I think it was less about, you know, and again, this is a parent thing because that's an issue out here now. I think the parents trusted me, but they didn't trust the circuit because it was new, right? So I'm gonna stay where I'm comfortable, whether that was EYBL or whatever. And yeah, that year we did good with the girls that decided to come over. We did really good.
And you
So
said that was 2020?
that class was 2020. So that was 2019. Yeah,
So
that
Under
was
Armour,
2019.
so Under Armour haven't been around on the girl side that long?
This is year 6, I believe.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm. Fairly new. They had a presence on the boys' side, but the
Mhm.
girl side, yeah, girl side's like I think that was 2018, 2019, something like that. Yeah,
That's interesting. What do you
pretty new.
think makes UA special?
You know what I say, and this is just knowing the guys that run the circuit. Um, you know, Matt Shockett, you know, my guy Zach, Alex Gar. Um, these guys are passionate about what they do.
Mhm.
So I remember we did our first directors meeting in Baltimore, and they talked about it. They were like, "Hey, we know who the big bear is out there, the big fish. You know, it's Nike. So like we're coming out there, we want to compete, right? This has nothing to do with shoe on shoe. It's like, hey, we want to be better at this piece of the business than them. So they put a lot of energy into what they're doing on the circuit. The circuit as a whole, you know, again, I don't think now I'm just speaking for Texas. People know how good that circuit is. You know,
I
I tell people
agree.
the number one team in the country is FBC. You know, I say that respectfully. They're on UA. You know,
Mhm.
you got other hard hitting programs that are, you know, are top 15 in the country, Minnesota Furies, West Virginia Thunders. They're UA. And
Mhm.
then even when you go back, UA had a really good run. I think the first 4 years were the top kid in the country. I think 3 out of the first 4 years, they were all UA kids. You know,
Mm.
Paige Buchers, AZ Fudd, you my baby that's at LSU now. Um, she was a UA kid. You know, So there's some really good talent there. Um, and it's fun. I mean, the coaches there, I tell everybody, especially coaches that come in our program, we get on the UA circuit. It's always going to be about athleticism and stuff. You get that a lot, because you're going to have those teams that just have those dogs, and it's like, okay, you got to have somewhere close to the same level of talent, or it doesn't matter what you run, you're gonna be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But there's also some coaches out there that can really coach. You come out there, you run a set 3 times, then all of a sudden you look, they got a counter, you know. So the chess pieces, and that's what I fall in love with, being a purist on the coaching side of it, because it's not all just get out here and run, run, run. It's learning how to, I'm seeing this, how to counter this. I'm seeing this, how to counter this. First reads, second reads, third reads. That piece I'm really in love with, and I see a lot on the UA circuit. So I feel challenged as a coach every time I go on that deal, to make sure I'm up to par.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes sense. Now, do you think I don't want to say it's as easy or as hard, but we got Puma coming into play. Like, how do you feel like newer circuits that's popping up gonna be able to do with the saturation of teams?
it's hard. Everybody has their rhyme or reason, right? And again, how do I say this politely? Um, Sometimes no matter how good you are at what you're doing, if you're going to a puddle and there's only so many fish in there and you got like 10 fishermen there, you're going to have a hard time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I think a lot of that is kind of what's going on right now. Are there too many circuits? Yeah, man. I'm not wishing anyone any bad luck or anything, but I think it does. Again, I go back to it devalues what we're doing. Because if I get a kid and they come to me and they work out and they say, hey, I don't think you're quite good enough, you need to work on this, or maybe you are good enough, but you need to work on this, work on this, work on this. As a parent, if you have a certain thing in your head you want to hear, guess what? If you call enough people, you're
You
eventually
gonna
going to hear
hear
it.
it. Yeah.
And that's not cool, So, you know, I say the worst thing about AAU club ball is parents, and I love people. I have good relationships with people. Again, that's something I matured on too. You got some parents out there talk out of pocket, just real loose and this, and this. And God knows, man, everything in the world's been said about me. And I just kind of roll that thing on. But even for them, if you can't settle down and be honest about the process, honest about where your kid is, and then be able to go to somebody and them tell you, hey, this is what it is, and you buy into it, you're gonna have a problem. And when you can pick up the phone and call this person and this person, and they say what you want to hear just because they're trying to recruit you, because again, it's so many of us and we're trying to get kids. So, like, if I got to say you're better than what you are to get you through the door,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. You'll probably see different in April. You know, that's why the AAU transfer portal in April. That's why that thing is wide open, because people
Wide
just
open.
telling people whatever they want to hear. And I'm not gonna say I haven't lost a kid during the season, but do we have some mass exodus? That's one thing I can say about Texas U. We've never had like a mass exodus during the season where, oh, it's April and then we got kids leaving. Because end of the day, I can explain what we're trying to do with your kid. You either agree with it, you don't agree with it. But I'm really big on setting expectations on the front end. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Because as parents, we all love our kids. I had 4 that played, and I know what's going on. Still, you put those parent glasses on. It's hard. You know what I mean? But I think more people have to do a good job of just, man, biting the book. Tell people where they really are. Because at the end of the day, it hurts the kid. Screw all this other stuff. You know, um, if I'm not a good fit for a kid, cool. Go somewhere else. Go to Pro Skills. Go drive. Go to Cypher. It's cool. That's good for that kid. It's another kid out there. But when we start trying to pad it and get kids in here because we're trying to, stack a roster or whatever, that's where we lose sight of what this thing is. And it's a lot of that goes on. We hear the horse. That's where, because I've seen the 4 corner stuff that you do with like Lefty, the rest of those. That's why those topics are so hot,
Yeah.
because it's people just doing stuff. It's just, man, come on, man. The kid doesn't have the kid's best interest at heart, man. So
And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's more so the directors. Like it's just the ego. It's us as directors, our ego to try to do this, do that, try to put the best team together, whatever the case may be. And it ain't even for that kid. We just trying to get, or we're trying to get kids so that they don't go somewhere else.
oh yeah, facts. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and that's not helping the
Mhm.
kid.
It's not. Look, it's again, we talk about the stuff directors have to do, and you know this because you know you're in that space. Like if I'm talking to a college about a kid, that's not a 10-minute call, right?
Right.
That that's a nice little bit. You know, it might be on the phone 45 minutes or more, right? So you take that the number of colleges you got to talk to about kids, then you're trying to recruit, and especially in the space now, as important as recruiting is retention. So in a normal day, I got to talk to 4 or 5. If I get around 4 or 5 colleges, then I got to talk to 2 or 3 kids I'm recruiting. Then guess what? I got like 4 kids that I got to make sure I talk to, or because so and so's calling them and blowing them up, and like so I got. It's like it's only so much time in the world. So and again, parents just they don't see that. They don't see how much work we got to put in on top of making sure we're running our program efficiently, that strategically we're doing what we need to do to give the best offering for our program. And again, like I say, most of us coach. Then
Yeah.
you're a coach too. So it's I'm telling you, it's a lot. If
It's a
people,
lot. Like
Mhm.
just the phone conversations. Like people don't understand. That's another reason why, like early on, I used to get I'm mad. Like I done first of all, no college coach knew about you. And I done went out my day to I'm on these phones, heavy, heavy. I'm talking to these schools. They own you. They know about you. I done put in all this work for you to tell me. And I think the thing that used to get me when you leave and you go to someone that's just as the same as far as talent, like it ain't like you went to a EYBL, you ain't went to a circuit, you went to the same thing that we may or may not even be better than, but I can provide more. It's just like, what
What
are
you
we
doing?
doing? What are
Yeah. But you know what? But you know what, Ash? I'll put this out here too. And some people gonna be mad. I don't care. It is what it is. Because I'm slipping into petty rich.
we?
Um, look, and it's happened to me before. Had a kid during your program. We talk about the footwork, leg work that you have to put when you're talking to colleges, right? It might not just be one call, it might be 2 or 3, right? If I'm talking to a college, they may not agree with me. So I got to keep working on them. And we keep having these convos and this, and this, right? And then eventually it fleshes out in an offer. I've had several kids over the years where I started working on them, I get them, and I'm working on the school. Guess what? Something happens, the kid goes elsewhere, right? And then after some time, boom, the offer pops up, right? And they don't know where it comes from,
They
right?
don't know.
And that used to be a sticking point. Like a kid get an offer, they were a new club. I'm like, man, that was some hours I put in, you know. But again, social media kills stuff now. People think they can tweet, and a tweet gets an offer, and it's like, you know, it's like, come on, man. I don't know a college out here where you can tweet and they're gonna say, "Ooh, I like that tweet. Let me offer that kid." You know what I mean? But we think that, you know, social media is like, what are you gonna do to promote my kid? And I swear, if you got a good graphic artist
Oh, you
and you don't have
winning. You
you
winning.
winning, you winning. They think you really killing it. And it's like, man, so that stuff getting lost in the mix is, man, I'm telling you. So, you know, that's
Man,
stuff that I don't think people talk about enough because
enough.
yeah,
Enough. And
because
then but again, as you said earlier, parents think that you're supposed to come on and be a coach, you're supposed to come on and be a director and it's free. But you want me to give my life to you, basically.
you know what it's really close to. And yeah, I work in real estate, so real estate license, being a realtor. You know, I represent, you know, my client when I'm going and helping them buy a house. And so it's the same way with kids. You know, and I tell parents that's an analogy now. Like I'm representing your kid, right?
Hmm.
And that's work. So I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna advocate for your kid. It is not as easy as me picking up the phone and say, "Hey, yo, so's good." Like I literally, and I know you've been there too. Like I get on the phone and the college thinks completely opposite. Like, yo,
Yes.
that kid is not that. And look, I got colleges, and any of them watch this podcast, they'll be like, "Yeah, Rich telling the truth." Like we get into it. You know, the parent won't know because I won't
Hmm.
bring it up to them. You can't tell parents like so and so school think your kid is soft, right? I'm
Right.
not going to tell you that, you know, but you know you have to overcome that stuff, and it's a process. So more times often than not, again, if people know that and they know what the process is, I think there would be a little more stability, maybe, um, in this deal. Maybe. But again, I don't think parents really understand the recruiting process, and they think it's really tweet, mixtape, tweet, mixtape again, and then April comes around and offers aren't there. Like, what's going on? So
Yep.
yeah.
And that's why every parent, every player needs to be listening to the It's Just Different podcast, because I'm telling them, I'm bringing on these college coaches to tell them what the recruiting process look like. Trying
Hmm.
to bring on AAU directors so these parents can hear like, oh, it's not just we showing up to practice. No, we got to book the gym. We got to pay for the gym. We got to find the gym. We got to talk to these college coaches all day. Don't let us be in a relationship like husband and wife looking at us crazy
Look,
like
they get mad and
because we
yeah,
on the
man.
phone. Like that stuff is work, the unseen hours. Like
Yep,
it's a grind on top of, like you just said, being a coach. I gotta get the practice plan together. I gotta prepare myself for the tournament. I gotta be away from my family to go
yep.
be with your daughter. Like that
Who
stuff
may
is
Yeah, who may or may not be buying in to everything you saying.
exactly.
It's look. I tell everybody like this time from September to right around now, because I laugh with coaches. I say, hey man, this is the time where I'm always trying to convince parents, even though I've been doing it 20
Can
some
you
years, that I know,
believe that?
yeah, that I know what I'm doing, and I can say what's what, but all of us are guilty of it. It's like, man, like I'm telling them the truth, but I gotta dash this up. I gotta make it sexy. I gotta do something, because they're just not getting it. Like I can tell you, and I think a lot of us get baited in that. Like we gotta make it sexy. We gotta do this, and this, because we don't, we're not gonna get the kid, But I'm telling you again, after doing it for a while, sometimes you gotta let that kid go, let people take their bumps. I've been doing it so long that I can say I've had several people where I get their first kid and run them through, and it's a little bit of a struggle. Like the parents are a headache, maybe a little bit, and this isn't it. And then second time they come around,
It's
man,
easy.
it's easy. They like, hey, yo, what he's saying is facts. Like, okay, we're gonna ride this thing through. But on the tail end of that, I think a lot of people go through this AAU process, and parents, because I'm beating up on parents a little bit now, and you went through some struggles and this isn't, but you don't share that, you know, with people. Like it's all the smoke and mirrors and all that. Like tell people what you went through exactly and what your pitfalls were. I don't know if it's because we're embarrassed or this, and this. But I don't think there's enough transparency on that end either, because I've seen again, everybody sees everything in this space up until the kid puts a little edit up and says I'm committed. But once that kid gets that first year and they go to, I don't know, go to Auburn or something like that, and then next year they're at Collin County, people not paying attention. They like,
Nope.
What happened? People aren't paying attention. It's so many of those stories out there that don't get attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or, even for people at my level, circuit teams, because, I played on circuit team. I said on that roster, well, at the end of the season, you ain't get nothing.
No
Or you ain't
offers.
get one. You know what I mean? People don't talk about that enough. And I'm a circuit guy. So, I'll say it, sometimes it happens, and there's always underlying stories, but then there's always going to be those people that, hey, feel like, hey, if I'm just through the door on the circuit team, like that's going to net an offer, and it does not work like that. So, again, I think just more information out there, people being transparent about what's going on, and parents asking the right questions and asking, what's your process? What do you do? How can you get my kid recruited? What do you go through? And if you ask 5 directors, you're going to get 5 different answers probably.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to quickly figure out which way you need to go. But people don't ask that question.
Nope.
How much are fees? How much are fees? And that's how I'm gonna trickle it. Oh, you don't charge anything? Okay,
Is it free? That's what I was gonna say. Is it free?
What are you covering? And then at the end of the day, that's the only question. That's all you cared about, right? And then at the end of the day, you're confused about why is this not playing out like I thought it was gonna play out. Find the fit, ask enough questions where there's a comfortable fit for what's going on with your kid. And again, this is for the 97. This isn't for the 3%ers, right? Like my girl JC, love JC to death. This ain't for JC. JC can play wherever, and she gonna do what she do, right? The other 97, you need to be careful about where you're playing. Ask questions and don't follow people. Social media is great, but if you're really good at what you do, you can paint a picture that really isn't the truth.
Yep.
So ask your questions, and just try to get more educated, about the process, and then you'll be okay. But it doesn't happen enough. So
Nope. Man, we can really be on here for a whole nother hour.
we
Like
could, we could,
this is so good. Like you
we
have
could.
given so much information, so many gems. Like I said, we can really be on here for a whole nother hour. We're gonna wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, we got 5 things, top five, top five. I got 5 things for you. Just answer to your best
Okay,
ability.
sure.
Biggest ick as a coach.
Regarding club basketball,
Yep.
unappreciative parents,
Oh, yeah.
biggest, biggest. Whether I show it or not, biggest.
That
Yep.
is
Yeah.
I supposed to be just asking these questions, but that one hit. That one hit me right there when you
Yeah.
said the unappreciative parents. What does that look like? Because these parents are very unappreciative. And I don't know if it's like unintentionally, like just not knowing. Like, what does that look like?
I think it's largely because somewhere in the process, someone didn't tell them where their kid really was. So I tell everybody with this thing, it always starts with knowing what level your kid's at. Because if you don't know what level your kid's at, it's a wrap from that point. Everybody isn't going to LSU and Texas and all this kind of stuff. You may be a mid-major kid. So if you figure out what level you're at, then the path to get there is more clear. But if you don't know that and you're looking, you're like, hey, my kid plays in the summer too, and that kid plays in the summer too. That kid has 15 offers. Why isn't my kid that offers? Well, maybe that kid's better. Maybe that kid's in a better situation fit wise. It's so many different things that it could be. But I think from parents, they don't know. They don't ask enough questions. I know for someone, if they were with you, what's Ashley doing? And it sounds like you doing all this stuff, but how many of your parents actually know that and can appreciate it? They don't. It's like, I know in this space, again, if I had a little bit of money and I could buy some uniforms and cover some fees, some of these parents wouldn't give a flip. It
Yeah.
wouldn't matter how many kids I got in school. It wouldn't matter if I got a process for recruit. It wouldn't matter, right? And that's a problem, So if you don't understand and you got a picture in your head what it should look like, and that picture usually most of the time is unrealistic, then yeah, you're going to be unappreciative because you don't appreciate what that person's doing. It might be they're maxing out your kids' opportunities, but you don't know it because you're not informed enough.
Yep. That's it. Build your 5. You can go 5 WNBA or 5 college. You the coach. Y'all are winning a championship. What 5 you rocking with?
On the women's side,
Yep.
oh, man, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Okay, okay, this is gonna sound really bad, and I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna take the starting 5 from South Carolina. I know it sounds bad, and there are better players out there, but look, I say that because I'm such a Dawn Staley fan, right? I love the style she coaches. I love the buy-in from the players. It's not about talent. They got talent, right? But more so than that, it's a. And again, I'm big on from the coaching piece when you can see their imprint on the team. And when I look at her, like I can see her imprint. She could take another group, 10 girls, and they're going to play that way. They're going to have that type of style of play. So, I'm more on the coaching side than player. Give me the coach and give me the style more so than the players. Players interchangeable.
I'm
Yeah.
rock with it. Okay.
Yeah.
If you can live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Tokyo. Because I love the culture. So it's on my bucket list to go over there. I'm a big anime guy. I love, Asian culture. Yeah. If I go over there and spend some time, yeah, I'd be gone. in a second.
Wow, that's dope. If you could
Yep.
do anything else outside of basketball every day, what would it be?
Um, I'm a foodie, so I like to cook. So if I
Hmm.
could, I don't know, go to culinary school or something and learn how to really cook, um, I would love to do it. I mean, I can dibble a little bit, but I like cooking. Whenever I'm not doing basketball, if I can't find anime, it's a cooking show, Master Chef,
Oh,
something
that's
like that.
dope.
Yeah, I love cooking, so I would say cooking. I'm not the best at it. I'm okay, but yeah, it would be cooking.
Okay, last one.
Mhm.
What does that pregame playlist look like? Who you listening to?
Oh man, it depends. Like I'm almost ashamed to say. Um, this might be a little head. You remember Breaking? Remember that
No.
movie back in the day? Okay, yeah, it's ahead of your time. Um, they got a couple songs on that playlist I listen to. Um, I'm super into Maroon 5,
Okay.
so I'll put some Maroon 5 on. Um, it just depends. Anything that can kind of mellow me out. But Maroon 5, like I'll go, girls that play with me over the years and we're riding to tournament, I'll put it on. They're like, listen, Maroon 5, yeah. Hey, it gets me right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that'd be my go
Okay,
to.
we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that. We've talked about a lot of different things. If you can go off the top of your head and name this episode, what would be the title of this episode?
The real. Like, we're kicking the real. Like, I don't think we skipped over anything. Like, we hit on some stuff, and
We
it's,
did.
yeah, it's like, I would say the real. So anyone, I don't think anyone can come and say anything either of us said and said, okay, that's not
Right.
facts. That's what so yeah, say the real.
I love it. I
Yep.
love it. We start this podcast off with what is different. I like to end with you, with the guest. What will be different with or about Rich within the next 3 to 5 years?
You know what? I think I want to have a bigger presence in the space, right? I think I've always been content to kind of do my thing and within the confines of my club, so
Mm.
Texas U. But I feel an increasing amount of responsibility to do more for the space. And I think that's coming on the heels of, people I've seen that have been still, Cynthia Guillory, which people may or
Mm-hmm.
may not know. She was on Girls and
R.I.P.
Boys Side. You got Adrian Mercado.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, you got Keith Russell um, that passed away. These are people that gave tremendously to the space. And, they're gone. I don't keep it a buck. It's like people don't remember them like they should, you
I
know?
100%
Um,
agree with that.
and that just goes to that appreciation stuff. So I just want to help any way I can to help the space be more healthy. Because is it totally healthy right now? No, it's not. It's exciting. There are a million talking points to stuff that's going on right now, but is it super healthy? It could be better. There are some good things going on, but for some of the young guys that are coming along, younger directors, my hope would be 15 years from now, guys that are kind of in the middle to the end of this deal, like me, have done some things that can make it easier for them. Because my path hasn't been the easiest, right? But I just want to feel when I walk away from this thing, maybe there's some kind of imprint on the space as a whole that I can help with. I don't know what that is, but I'm telling you, I'm scratching and clawing to find out. So
I love it. I love it. We can tell the people where to find you. You can leave a message for parent, player, coach, whoever that's on your heart. We're going to get out of here.
cool, sounds good. Hey, hit me up at Twitter at CoachRich12. That's the best spot. Shoot me a DM. Love to talk to people. Unbiased. Doesn't have to be about Texas U. It can be about whatever. I'm really good in those spaces. So appreciate your time, Ashley. Show's the bomb. Appreciate what you're doing. This is good stuff. Keep following that calling. Obviously, God got you doing it. Keep working. Keep doing your do.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank y'all for tuning in for yet another episode. Be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. Do all of those different things so that we can continue to get the episode up so people can see this. All the stuff that we talked about is what these parents and players and coaches need to hear. So make sure y'all like, follow, share, subscribe, and we'll be back next week.